Today we're gonna do a bunch of spoon fishing only. We got a hole right here. It's filled with coho. Right here is a little bit shallow at the top of the run. Down below is a little deeper. And I've been running this weight right here. So I'm actually gonna just pop this weight off. I just took my weight off and I'm gonna run, you call it naked. And I'm gonna bomb this spoon out to the other side and just work it back nice and slow. And then as we get down below here, it gets deeper, we'll add some weight back onto the line. And then hopefully we'll get a bite. There's fish rolling all over the place. We're a little bit late in the season. There's some early fish that come in. Most of them are hatchery. They got some color on them. Don't bite that well. But we've also got a nice run of wild fish that are just starting to come in. It's a little early for those. Usually they come in a couple more weeks from now, but we're gonna beat up on it.
Cast.
It's always good too to get it way on the far side and let it flutter down, get some depth, and then you can feel, you'll start to feel the spoon just from the pressure of the water. Just the pressure of the water will start working that spoon and you'll feel it in your tip. Your tip will just start doing a little wiggle like that. And you want to let the spoon do the work. You know, you don't want to reel or, you know, it's not a spinner. Spinners, you give a jerk and it starts going. You could be in pond water and get a spinner to go. Spoon doesn't work that way. You got to have a little bit of current pushing it and just let it flutter. It's just like a dead fish, you know, dead minnow or a smolt or whatever. And fluttering along, and it's easy pickings.
The whole idea with spoon fishing for coho salmon, as well as Chinook salmon, pink salmon, chum salmon, you know, heck, steelhead. The fact is except in cases where you need a lot of control over line angle, actually going with like a 7-foot medium action bass inshore type rod or twitching rod. This right here is not marketed as a salmon rod. It's the Lamiglas Black. It's an inshore rod for kind of that southeast type of thing. But I've been using it this fall for casting plugs, spinners, spoons, and it is doing awesome. It got a really nice Chinook yesterday, handled it great. And I want to just show you, I've got a very simple one-piece 7'2" rod, at 8 to 15 pound line rating. And then I'm going with like a 20, 30 pound, 40 pound braid, and braids kind of vary, but in that range is nice for castability. And then what I'm gonna do is just go from this braid with a double uni knot to a mono or a fluorocarbon or whatever type of leader material you wanna use. But with the double uni knot, there's a lot of different knots that people use, from the Albright to the blood knot to the crazy Alberto. For me, when it comes to these diameters of lines like 20, 30, 40, 50 pound braid and say, you know, 8 to 25 pound leader, for me the most consistent has been the double uni knot. But actually on this exact place that I'm standing a couple years ago, Nick Amato, Tony's brother, gave me a little bit of insight on the double uni knot, which is a very simple concept that when you're doing this knot, and I'm not going to show it in depth here really, but you can kind of get the idea. While you're doing these loops, you want to make a note of the first, when you push your line through this loop, you want to remember which direction you were pushing it. So it went away from me and through the loop. So I'm going to remember that, because when I come around to do the next one, if I don't go the same way, there's going to be some sort of tension that will actually make that double uni knot break at the knot instead of where it should be at like a clinch knot on the lure. So once I started doing this and getting a good consistent, you know, 5 wraps or so, always go the same way, whether it's towards you or away from you. On both of these, go the same way. Pull them tight, get them nice and cinched tight here before you bring them together. Then, and this is something I see people do all the time when they're pulling knots, they're pulling really close. You actually want to pull from as far away as you can so that everything's like evenly distributed through that. Now those pulled together, everything's tight. I've got no little, you don't see any cinching or any issues right here on the leader because I'm pulling from far enough away. Now at this point, you know, you can just basically I like to have fingernail clippers as one of the easiest ways. And then I just point this thing over my waders so that when I cut it, it falls into my waders, and later that day, I can grab all those little bits of leader that have fallen down to my feet and throw them in the garbage. Then I got this. You want to get them cut as close as you can. And I'm a little shaky, but I tie good knots. And this one does look solid, I'm gonna say. So that is a double uni knot right there, and I still got it attached here. So we're gonna basically choose a leader length, and you know, something, don't need to go crazy with leader length, but you know, 6, 7, 8 foot is nice, especially if you start switching lures and then all of a sudden it's getting shorter and shorter and shorter. So at that point, I got a double uni knot, and then I've got this thing cut off. Now, because of that double uni knot being pretty strong, whenever I'm tying onto a lure, typically I'm going to want to use a slightly less strong knot on the lure itself. Although in some cases you just want to do a polymer and just give yourself the best chance of getting it back, especially with awesome spoons like these. So if it's something where you want to lose the spoon before you lose your double uni knot, then just go with like a standard clinch knot or fisherman's knot. But if you're like, hey, I've got a beautiful, I mean, these things have impressive plating. This is the bully spoon. This one, I want to give myself a chance to get it back. So I'm actually going to do a polymer knot here. And I'm going to hope that it, if I do hang up on a tree or something like that, that in that case, I got the best chance of just reeling the tree in if I have to get the lure back. What's really cool about the Williams wobblers and all the different spoon options that they have, like this bully, is you can approach a wide variety of water. In this case, we've got a deeper spot over there. Tony says it's, you know, it could be around 12 feet, something like that. Now I have a spoon tied straight. There's no other weight on this, but the bully is a specifically, it's a bully. And I've got fish on Alaska on these. I was ripping across a big river and getting a fast retrieve, and this would get down in that higher water. So there's a lot of different options based on the water you're fishing. And in this hole, there's so much diversity in the water types and water speed and depth that I want to fish 3 different spoons, probably minimum, you know, and that's the bully spot right there. If there's a spot to use this, it's right there. Or one thing you can do is just get into a shallower area that you would normally swing across and kind of slowly go, and instead go for a faster retrieve, erratic action, and this thing's going to be bombing through. And so it's just angles, and it's a different presentation. And that is one huge aspect of spoon fishing in a way that I cannot overstate. They call it angling, and that's for a reason. And with spoons, angles matter so much. The current does its own thing. Your rod, tip direction, and line does its own thing. The spoon itself. So sometimes if you're not getting bit on spoons, it's good to walk down and change the angle on them and maybe cast up and reel back toward yourself fast. I'm not saying do that for an hour, but you know, try some different angles, or more kind of drift it through the hole, or then go to the swing. And I have found a lot of times with coho in particular and steelhead, casting a little bit upriver and like slowly retrieving it, and so it's kind of like drifting and wobbling on the way, you won't get those vicious spoon bites that they talk about. Often it just kind of stops because the fish doesn't really like move and run away with it. It just kind of intercepts it as it's coming down river. But then once it realizes it's hooked, then you get the massive head shake. Whereas when you're swinging it like this, and you know, hopefully it would happen, when you're swinging it like this and your line's more tight and that thing's starting to come out and swing behind it, when you get bit right there, there's no doubt that's the tight line grab. But don't sleep on a little bit upstream, so that thing's just kind of dying and falling backwards like a wounded bait fish. Now over there, I've just been kind of casting and letting it kind of wiggle through. Now I want to try something a little more aggressive with the bully, which is a bit of a twitch. And there's actually a lot of old school coastal fishermen that know all about this, casting and, you know, giving the spoon a little twitch. So it's kind of in between being able to vertical twitch, so to speak, as well as swing something through the hole. And sometimes you could do a more pronounced hole or more pronounced twitch so that it really falls. But you want to kind of look at the spoon in the water and play around with it and just see how it reacts to your rod tip movement. That's where these short, fast action rods actually are really nice for spoons, because like with just a little bit of movement of the tip, I can do a lot to make that thing look like a dying, wounded bait fish. And it does it.
Right now, Lucas is kind of changing it up. He's going different directions. He's jigging. These fish, you got to get them excited. There's some fish in here that have been here for a while. There's also some fresh ones that are moving in. Usually they're going to be in small groups of 3 to 5. If we're lucky, we'll get a group of those fresh fish because they are very aggressive. The water's cooled off, probably in the 50 degree zone somewhere. And it's just a matter of time. We just keep casting. Now the coho also kind of go off and on the bite at certain times. You know, it's just like they remember being in the ocean, and they'll stop feeding and then they'll go on a feeding frenzy, and they kind of bring that back with them when they get back in the river. Granted, the warm water earlier in the season puts them off the bite, and that makes it really tough. But the water's cool, so you just got to keep casting. Sometimes you got to make 1,000 casts, and with 2 of us here, we could cut that in half and maybe one of us will hook something. But you just got to make sure and really work that spoon. Make it crazy.
Not like that. That's line tip. That's not a technique. That's trying to get line tip out.
Yeah, and you get your line stuck around the tip, and that looks really crazy. But yeah, you just got to keep working that spoon. Make it just flutter. And, you know, let it do its thing against the current as well. Even, you know, if you stop reeling, wait a second, maybe count 1, 2, 3, start reeling again. That works a lot of times. Sometimes these fish, they'll start following your spoon, and they're kind of interested in it. But if you stop, as soon as you stop reeling, that spoon is right in their face, like literally they're right behind it. You stop reeling, and then they're either going to turn or they might just, you know, grab it. I'm guessing some of these fish are just going to do a light bite because they're not real aggressive. But like I said, if we get some chromers in here, they will just hammer it, and it'll be a 0 to 100 miles an hour. Normally when you get your spinner spoons, they come in these pre-packaged packages with the clear plastic on the front. And it's interesting because I just saw Lucas do this, and I think it's just second nature. But you know, they put a little slit right here in the back, and it's to help you, you know, start a hole and dig it out right here. Don't do that. I think everybody eventually figures out that you find the top right here and you start peeling it back. Okay, now usually it starts going bad. See that? But all you got to do is you just push on the front of the spoon right here, push down, and then you peel it out just like that. And there you go. Easy. A lot of times if you go digging from the back, you'll end up getting frustrated, and what'll happen is that it'll get stuck. And let me tell you, it's a pain in the butt. As you can see, you start frustrated to pull it apart. I know it seems simple, but yeah, you just start here, peel back, push down on the top, and whoop, just like that. Easy peasy.
We've got a little vulture here trying to get into some of the treats that we're reserving for the fish. What in the, look at this guy.
He is a scavenger.
Oh my goodness. You want my coffee too?
Was that a piece of dead fish or something?
Goodness. Is this guy hungry or what, man? I mean, he's pretty friendly. What are you doing there? Do you need some food? What do we got?
We got nothing.
What are these things supposed to eat? Tell us in the comments.
Give him some coffee.
I got coffee. Got coffee. And the mug. Would you look at that? Got some guitar chords on it.
So I just got a snag right here, and with the spoon, if you get a snag, you don't want to just start yarding on it. You can let a little bit of some line, let little bit of some line out, and then you know, give it a few twitches. I mean, I might be stuck on my weight, I don't know, but you literally can just kind of wiggle it. If it's stuck in a piece of wood, you might be screwed. But if you're in a rock or something, you know, where that point of your hook is just kind of just stuck there, you can just kind of give it some wiggles, you know. If you let that line and as you let the line out, it creates a little bow, and it kind of pulls from behind instead of the direction that you got stuck in. Okay, so this isn't going well. As you can see, I'm letting some line out, giving it, oh, look at that, just like that. So it's amazing, you know, when you talk about something and it works. So remember, when you get a snag, don't set the hook, don't yard on it. Go soft, let some line out, let the line float down below the spoon, and then just start giving it some twitches. And just like you saw just there, you'll get it out. Right now, I'm using this is the Ridgeback that Williams Lures makes, and Williams uses only real gold, real silver. They've been in business for over 100 years, and so this spot down in the lower part of the river here is a little deeper. So I added a weight right up here with a monofilament leader down to my Ridgeback. And so I'm going to cast it out and let that weight pull this down into the deeper water. One of my all-time favorite places to fish is the Deschutes. And the Deschutes is nice. You could fish this just straight on your line, cast it way out, swing it in those shallow riffles on the Deschutes. And then if you get to a deep hole, you can just switch over and add a weight, you know, to get it down a little bit deeper. Lucas is using the bully, and the bully's heavier. I think it comes in some different weights, but so this is a great spoon. This is what we're pretty much fishing with all day right now, and we're gonna hit the deep part right here. We're gonna go up and swing through the riffle right above this deep hole, and cross our fingers. Literally just bomb it out there to the other side. Looks like I got a good launch way over there, and you don't, like, I reeled up a little bit. You don't need to reel up. Let some of that loose line sink it down to the bottom, and then almost like you're drift fishing. I'm feeling it tip already. It's starting to tick, and then just let it work through, and then hopefully you'll start feeling the tip just do a little dance. You can see it just barely dancing a little bit. And I'm not giving it any action right now. I'm just letting the spoon kind of do its own dance, and then just slowly swing it in, swing it back until the current slows down, and then you might have to start reeling just slightly. It looks like I'm stuck on the bottom, so I'm going to start bringing it in. I might actually have too much weight on. It feels like I got down pretty quick. So and then you kind of get to that stretch of water where it's like so shallow. Probably no fish there. Maybe early in the morning there is, but we're starting to get some sunlight coming on us, and so you just step, repeat, work your way down to the bottom of the hole, and because these fish are kind of milling around everywhere.
Okay, so, you know, inevitably gonna hang up every once in a while. I got hung up with this spoon, so the first thing, like Tony explained, is letting out the line, giving a little yank to try to get it from another angle. But when you have the opportunity to be able to just move downriver or upriver and start reeling, keep it tight, or not necessarily too tight, you don't want to dig in more, but Just keep trying on the angles until it's at a point where the hook can pull back. There we go. I got it back. Well, it looks like we should have walked down to the tail out, but hey, they had the right idea. They rolled on down, picked some up. That's the second one. That's pretty cool. Always cool to see people having success on the river.
Well, that looks like a nice one.
That looks like a nicer one. So I think we got fish moving into the hole and they're getting into them, and it's good to see.
Reel your spoon back in, sometimes it looks like that, and usually you know right away when you start fishing it that it's kind of stuck like that. And the Siwash, a lot of times you can just go like this and start bouncing it, and of course, oh, there you go. See how that, you don't have to bring it to yourself and unhook it. You just give it a little jiggle and the hook comes off and you're ready to go. You can just cast out again, makes it nice. The less hardware you got flopping around, and I've got a snap swivel on here, which is kind of a no-no. A lot of guys just, you know, tie right to the split ring or just have the barrel straight through, because, you know, it can change the action under the water having this above here. But in general though, it's kind of neat. You know, if this gets stuck, you can just do the little wiggle and then you're ready to go.
All right, what's the plan?
Keep casting. What are we at, like 300 a piece? We know there's fish laying in here. We've seen them rolling around, but they're probably older fish. Hopefully a few bright ones scooch up here. Here's an interesting tidbit. A guy named Julio Thompson Buell, maybe I'm mispronouncing that, he invented the spoon as we know it in the 1820s. Now the regular spoon for eating, as we know it today, was first introduced in the Middle Ages, being metal. I mean, wooden spoons made out of seashells, those go back thousands and thousands of years. And I find it interesting that if the spoon, as we know it, was introduced in the Middle Ages, that it took 200-300 years for somebody to invent it. I mean, I would imagine somebody, you know, dabbled with it. But Julio, he's the one that really brought it to the mainstream. And since then, it kind of morphed from the traditional spoon shape that you eat with to an elongated shape. And that kind of got popular here out on the West Coast, I don't know, back in maybe the 1940s, 1950s. I might be a little bit off there. But ever since then, it's kind of been fine-tuned, and they're really popular. The fish, just to really get, you know, they look like a wounded bait fish. So you can imagine any kind of wounded bait fish is going to be prime suspect for eating if you're an adult fish and you see that. Easy pickings, easy meal, and that's exactly what we're doing. We're trying to imitate a wounded bait fish. And you know, these fish, that's all they feed on out in the ocean is bait fish. They try to maim them, running through big schools, hitting them with their bodies, and then circling back, and they see that bait fish slowly sinking in the ocean and they eat it. So hopefully that's something you guys will find interesting. I know I like history stuff, so there you go. Right, looks like Lucas has got a fish on, guys. You got a nice one?
Yeah, I think so.
Sweet.
Twitching spoon.
Are you twitching the spoon?
Yeah, nothing on the retrieve, but so I was just lifting it and letting it fall because we got this weird water.
All right.
So just dropping it, and when I lifted back up, this thing just exploded. That was awesome. I've got this water over here, which is weird. It's got a lot of boils, so retrieving it, it was just doing weird things. So cast it over there and literally just lift and let it drop like a twitching jig. And this thing grabbed it on the fall. Whew. And that ripped my arm off.
Really? Yeah. Just hammered it?
Oh, it felt good.
Looks like it's fighting hard too.
Yeah.
That's like the 10th hour, man.
Yeah. Was that 1,000 casts?
Yeah, probably. Maybe a few more.
I'm glad I didn't leave. Had to come.
It was like what, the 9th hour?
There's like this back eddy, so there's current right here. And this fish is smart because it's just
he's working you.
Nosing into the current. That was cool. Casting into a weird current and just jigging a spoon, giving that little activity, and then to just get ripped by this beautiful buck wild coho. This thing's gorgeous. Look at that. Look at that color. This thing's so pretty. Nice to see. Nice to get a fish after, you know, it ain't a keeper or anything like that, but the tug's a drug. That's what it's all about. And that's just a beautiful fish. Wild coho in October, they get that kind of that kype or that hook nose, but they're so pretty. I mean, look at the colors on this thing. And this fish, this is just a healthy specimen.
Oh, there it goes.
He was ready to go. That was awesome. You know, Tony, it's good to get one. End of the day, fish of 1,000 casts some days. Some days you catch 1,005 casts. But today, a lot tougher, but that made it all worth it. It's always good to get out, but a beautiful wild coho in October is fun.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching. Looks like Lucas pulled a fish out right at the end. Wow.
That was clutch.
It's
pretty cool.
It's you know, it's a little tough. You got to put the time in. 1,000 casts. I think that was true today. And we did see a few other fish caught in the drift boat, and the guys next to us got one twitching. But hey, I want to thank Williams for sending me those spoons. Beautiful spoons. They're gold plated, silver plated, and they work great. Yeah,
that ridgeback in particular. That is, I didn't actually know about the ridgeback from Williams. You know, I've caught fish on the Williams wobblers and the moose lick lures and everything, but that one right there is an actual like casting 2/5 ounce spoon, exactly the type and style of spoon that we fish here in the wintertime and fall for coho when we're kind of doing the swinging spoons thing, you know. And
yeah, coho, steelhead, definitely.
Chinook.
Chinook, yeah.
And they casted great. You know, you get those good aerodynamics with, you know, enough weight where you can chuck that thing way out there, and then you can feel it in the rod tip. You know, using those Lamiglas twitch rods, you feel that spoon every flutter. And I noticed picking it up and twitching it, that thing jumps and it falls. I can't wait to use that thing more this winter. It's gonna be fun.
Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. Maybe learned a few things, and don't forget to subscribe here underneath, and don't forget to subscribe to the magazines. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.